Mr. Supervisor, members of the town board, good to see you all. David Steinmetz from the law firm of Zarin and Steinmetz. Pleased to be back in front of the town board. It's been a while.
We have feel free, yes.
But we have kept your planning board and your zoning board busy, and Joe doesn't want to hear about it. We're scared.
No, thank you.
But it is genuinely good to be back
We
before.
did talk about boycotting, but no.
No way, no way. Joined this evening, my colleague Matt Behrens, our client Craig Florida, and John Pantanelli. I want to make sure I pronounce it correctly. And my friend and esteemed colleague Diego Villarreal from JMC, our project engineers and planners. We have been working with Craig, John, one of his partners, for a while in connection with the 1 Lawrence Avenue property, the former Axo Noble site, contaminated site that went through a rather substantial environmental cleanup. The good news for our team, the site has been cleaned. The DEC has signed off on it.
Can you explain to what level that cleanup was?
So we'll get to that in a moment.
Okay.
The site has been cleaned up. The DEC has signed off on it. That all took place before 1 Lawrence Ardsley LLC acquired the property. So our client owns the site. They purchased the site aware of the surrounding situation, the underlying environmental situation, and the applicable zoning. We are here to talk to you in a pre-submission format about outdoor storage of vehicles and equipment. Our clients have a scaffolding business and would like to have one section of the property for outdoor storage of scaffolding material. And the site would primarily be used for parking of vehicles. What kind of vehicles? School buses, about 66 school buses. Rider trucks before they go out to a location to then be rented out. There's no retail location, no rider, pull up and park your car and rent your truck here. No, this is a facility or a spot where they would be stored. And 80 automobile storage spots for local dealerships to make use of. The school buses, while there's nothing been finalized, several of your area school districts have expressed real interest in having a place to park school buses or school bus vans.
Which municipalities?
So are you able to say with whom you have been in contact?
We understand it's the Westchester County operations, okay, and that they have several different tiers of that. We didn't bring our real estate professional.
School buses
School
under the Westchester County rubric?
Yeah. They would all service Westchester County schools.
In terms, the big issue that I could see is the traffic, because Ardsley residents and the mayor and the village board, they've been concerned about the traffic congestion on Sawmill River Road. I live near that area, and I know that it's really pretty difficult. So how's the traffic going to be? Is it going to be the rush hour? How many buses are you talking about? How many vehicles?
So Paul, that would definitely be something that would be critical, and Diego could speak to this in terms of the traffic analysis we would have to do.
Where will the entrance be?
So if we want maybe a quick overview on the site
Yeah,
plan,
that'd be
just so
helpful.
everybody
And then we can answer your question, Ellen, about the
I don't know if everybody wants to look on the screen, but I did bring a board as well. I don't know if this is a little easier to see. You want the screen or the board, whichever you
Whatever
prefer.
for us.
Lay that out on the table?
Let's have this, the board.
Thank you.
If that's okay, just like that. Again, this is just indicates the area of the property. It's highlighted in red. Lawrence Street is off to the left-hand side of the page. This is Sawmill River Road. And then the Sawmill Parkway is just off the page on the top portion of the page here. Just as it does today, the access would be directly to Lawrence. So you would have to come in and out. There is no direct access to Sawmill River Road because there's actually 2 prongs of the Sawmill River here. It's on both sides of the property.
Right.
So you have the water course here and the water course here, and that's the entrance and exit points opposite the warehouse building on the other side of the road. The idea on the way this circulation would work is you'd have a one-way entrance closer to Sawmill River Road, where you come into the property. There's the parking area there for employees and other people, because again, the bus driver needs to park his car there. If they are coming via car, some of them will come via transport, other people pick up there, but we thought it was important to have parking for the people that do come to the site itself. So again, bus storage located on the plan north. It's really the west side of the property. And it's done in a fashion where they can circulate in and out, and then they would exit Lawrence. And obviously, a majority of the vehicles would have to go left because of the commercial vehicle status here.
Okay.
You have to come to Sawmill River Road with the trucks and other things like that. They wouldn't
go on
be
the
able
Sawmill
to
Parkway, right.
go to the Sawmill River Parkway.
Right.
And that's something we'd look at on a traffic study
But won't
as
this
well.
be during like rush hour?
It depends. It depends what you're talking about. School buses generally leave early in the morning. They head out because they start their first pickups. I know, I can only speak to my kid's school district, 7 a.m., 6:50 is the first pickup. And so it happens relatively early, so I can't speak to the exact times. It's just my experiences with that. And then they're generally back 3, 4 o'clock with the exception of the late buses.
All those buses will be used on a daily basis
Generally, yes.
during school.
So you have 60 to 70 buses that would have to exit.
I think there's gonna be like a lot of opposition to this, so that's my
Well,
gut
can I,
feeling.
actually, I live very near there. I use Lawrence Street a lot of times. I have seen so many near accidents because it backs up and people go into the oncoming traffic to make the turn. So I'm really
And that's
having
Lawrence Street
very,
onto Sawmill River Road, or is that going in the other direction because of the Sawmill Parkway
well, it
backups?
backs up so much and you have people going west in the oncoming traffic lane. So it, they, in order for them to make the left, you're gonna have a problem.
It's also not particularly wide street.
Yeah,
And that's something we'd have to look at. From a width standpoint, I do know it's adequate for 2 lanes, whether or not, with the
But-
bus turning and everything.
Exactly, like doing a bus turning.
But that's
and
something that
yeah.
we would study.
well, also, there is a culvert, which is very limited.
Right there.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so I don't think, if I recall, this is going back some years ago, I don't recall, but I'm pretty sure there's a problem with widening it.
I just think,
Widening.
I'm on that road a lot, and I just, even when a non-rush hour, it's horrible. So I think we had, a number of years ago, before they cleaned it up, they were looking at apartments and the community went ballistic.
We know that.
And I would think that this proposal I would think it would have a very slim chance of getting approved. That's my gut feeling, but I think it's like a waste of time even pursuing it, because I know that there's a lot of, traffic issues right now. I know how bad it is, I see it personally. I go, I'm familiar with that whole Ardsley area. You have the village of Ardsley is good, I'm sure that they're gonna be going crazy over this. I just can't see how this could get approved.
So a couple
Can I just,
Read it.
can
Go
I
right ahead.
just really quickly, so understanding I know the area not familiar, and not as familiar as you all are. I would just ask you guys, did you have an opportunity to maybe survey the area, just to get some kind of understanding of where people's minds are and relate to this property and this
So,
project, even the village of Ardsley?
So we've certainly not, there's no way we would go speak to Ardsley before we came to speak to
No,
Greenberg.
okay,
So
just to get
that-
an
so out of-
idea,
out
right?
of
No,
courtesy
that's
and
fair, that's
professionalism,
fair.
the first stop, honestly, was with all of you.
Okay.
We did have an initial discussion with your staff, and I want to respond to Ellen's question because it sets up really the response to your reaction. The site was cleaned up to non-residential
Right.
standards. So you knew that, I'm sure, but you
Yes.
have, so
So that, because people listening.
absolutely, so you all need to understand that the government determined that the site should be cleaned up, the government supervised the cleanup of the site, and the government determined that it had to be used in a non-residential format. So having said that, I want to make sure you all know, we're not here asking for a zone change, we're not here asking for a text amendment, we're not here asking for a variance. What we are proposing, we believe to be, and I'll let staff speak for themselves, they met with us, it is a zoning compliant use. So Diego and I know as folks who practice in front of your board and your planning board and your zoning board and your staff, the minute we walk out of the room, you're gonna hear it, I know, if you haven't already. We know we have our work cut out for us in order to respond to truck movements and turning radii. I get that, I get the comment and the question. We understand that there's possible queuing that occurs on Lawrence right now. Our task would be to demonstrate that the good news for us, the buses roll at a different time from AM peak commuter time. The buses come back at a different time than PM peak commuter time.
Well, that will all show in the traffic.
Exactly,
But,
exactly.
yeah.
That's
but
gonna be the
and-
key.
And I think,
It is,
yeah, and I think that we're just expressing our
totally.
concerns
Totally,
based
yeah.
on
The problem is you have,
purpose-
a lot of
business
times, because I've been through this, for many years, a lot of times applicants come in and they spend all this money, and then there's community outrage, and then the project, you spend like $1 million on studies and things, then it dies. I would be willing to bet anything that this is not gonna be approved. I would be very,
And I
very
think that-
surprised.
I think
And I
we
think you're
should-
wasting your money and your time, and I'd rather be upfront because the
I think they
traffic,
understand your point.
the traffic
They
is so
understand.
bad.
Well, they're not arguing with you.
No,
Yeah,
but I
they're
just
here.
don't want, I
They're
wanna
here.
be upfront
Well, you
and
are.
not lead you on to think that there's gonna be support for this, because there's definitely not gonna be support for this.
Well,
Yeah.
I, like I said. if-
That's the
if
most strident I've ever heard Paul. I've known Paul for over 25 years. So Paul,
Yeah.
I appreciate you being candid. You need to
Right.
know, and you know me well enough.
Right.
I appreciate you being, I've never heard you that candid.
Yeah.
No,
But
and I also would like to say, for example, like in the Elmsford side, there's a car dealership, and they basically store the vehicles, and there was no problem. So like if you stored buses and they basically were used because they had to be stored there, but they weren't going in and out, I'd say that would be an acceptable use, because there wouldn't be a traffic, problem. If it's gonna be used for buses, then
Maybe we could break that down just to understand a couple, because there's different components to the plan. The
Okay.
buses that we've been focused on is one aspect of it. You do have, vehicle storage, which is something that's
That's
being
fine.
Which is what
contemplated
you were
on the
just mentioning.
project.
I could live
So
with that.
that is a component of
Vehicle
this.
storage, would you clarify?
Yes.
what you
Yeah,
mean by that?
it's, a car dealership needs storage locations. Their locations never have enough parking on site
Yeah.
to
We would-
store their inventory, whether
we
Yeah,
it
would
be
never
I just-
queue them, Ellen, like we are here,
Yeah.
if they were gonna be coming in and out.
Yes,
just
but
like
again,
this storage.
because you're also speaking to the public,
Yeah.
and I wanted to make sure
Totally
that.
get it.
And that makes sense. So you do have that component.
Mhm.
You do have the rider trucks, which is it's a little bit different with that. Again, that is storage of the vehicle there. When it's needed, obviously they call, they come pick it up, and they bring it there. So that's periodic traffic going back and forth.
But
And then
it's not-
obviously,
It's not a fleet.
no, it's not a
Correct.
fleet. You're 100% right. And then the last piece is the scaffolding business. The scaffolding is, the equipment is stored here, the truck pulls in, it gets loaded with scaffolding equipment as needed, depending on the day and depending on the time, and then they leave. So it sounds like it's the buses that are coming in and out on a daily basis.
Not only the buses,
Yeah.
but you have parking for the bus drivers, so they will be driving on Sawmill, so there will be two-way traffic. And you've got South County Trailway, and an accident that
What?
with someone pulling out into the oncoming traffic, they almost hit the cyclist coming across on South County Trailway. So all this
All
has
that.
to be taken
So
into
let me
account.
And there's
rephrase.
also
The-
the backup from Rivertown Square that comes
Comes
this
across.
way.
So let me
There's a lot
rephrase,
going
it's the
on
bus
there.
operation associated with it, whether it be the bus drivers coming and
Right.
going, the buses coming and going. It's really the bus operation portion of it that seems to be raising the most concerns, especially
They're
from
all
a traffic
concerns.
standpoint. Yeah.
They're all concerns.
Let me ask a question. By no means waving the white flag and withdrawing the concept that the clients would like to explore, but exploring something with you. You all sat, as you indicated, you watched your community oppose the possibility of residential.
Correct.
You knew the site was being cleaned up at substantial expense, so that we didn't have an environmental situation here in your community.
Correct.
What did you all envision ultimately going here in accordance with your
So
zoning?
I would say
I have a
something
solar
more
farm.
passive.
I'm just trying to find that
than-
out.
oh, solar farm, okay, that's a
That's
good
why, that was
idea.
my vision, was a solar farm.
Yeah,
But-
something
but we're-
that there wasn't a lot of entrance and egress
stress to the-
and stress to the traffic. It's just a really bad intersection. It's a really dangerous intersection. Someone was hit there not that long ago. I mean, we wanted to have a bus stop in Rivertown Square. That couldn't happen because of the narrowness of the streets, and I mean, we've been around this block a lot of times.
Solar farm with energy storage, or, out of curiosity?
Anything with environmental, solar, like a regular solar farm, I thought would be like a really excellent use, and the mayor of Ardsley was very, very supportive of, that, and the people in the community were very supportive of that. But let's say you did a solar farm, let's say you did like a solar farm and like a storage for vehicles.
Or storage for your
Energy.
Scaffolding.
Right, but let's say you
Scaffolding.
had a storage for the vehicles, like for cars, and that would be like part of it. Then you had a solar farm on something like that. So then there's basically very limited, parking. Then people would be really, then I think people would be really excited about it, because that would be really a perfect use.
I have a two-part.
I was not authorized to ask that question, but I was curious, so I did.
Okay, I have a suggestion or a thought, which is probably not realistic, but nonetheless, I'll mention it, and a question. The question first, if this goes ahead, that's a large area of concrete, of asphalt,
No.
right? What is the,
It's recycled concrete aggregate right now, so it's a porous material. It's actually unpaved. It's the same thing that we use as sub-base on highways. It's a state-approved
so
three-quarter
of
inch.
course,
Yeah.
good.
So the good news is,
that was-
unlike other uses, we would not need to pave the site if it's just storage and parking.
Right, okay, good, well, that's good.
That's one of the
because-
environmental benefits of it.
Right, and I was gonna ask what remediation you did, because there's a lot of flooding in the area.
Yeah.
Then my
It's a-
idea was, but an expensive one, albeit an expensive one, which is not something that your client is gonna wanna do, but it would make a great retention pond. It would just need more environmental cleanup than that.
The other problem is we had, Ellen and I were at a meeting with the state DOT a couple months ago, and there was a pedestrian accident
That
on
Joy mentioned, yeah.
on the Sawmill River Parkway at that intersection. People were asking for like a pedestrian bridge or some traffic safety improvements, because there's no bus stop at
I know where
Rivertown,
he's going
at the shopping center. So your point about, just this, even the proximity of this site to the South County and or the Andrew O'Rourke trail, really highlights the fact, if there's a lot more vehicles and buses, the potential of a bicyclist being hit or a pedestrian being hit, is really not, pretty high.
Because everyone who works in Rivertown Square walks from the bus stop on Sawmill River Road, and they walk across, and it's not really very safe.
No, it's not scary.
Okay, let me ask you a question. If we eliminate the buses altogether, one of the uses I think would be better if we increase the scaffolding storage. Because the way I see the scaffolding storage, it would exit on 87 North.
How do you, it does,
That, when you come up 87 North, the thruway, you can get right onto Sawmill River Road.
right, at Ardsley.
And you can come right here in a very short distance, not even going through the town, going into the property, and then basically when you're going back 87 south toward the city, all of that would work for a scaffolding company.
How many vehicles would be moving in and out, say, a day, like a approximate?
Didn't we say?
20 or 30?
So it's not, that's not a big traffic generator.
And
No, but it's staggered, because it's
They're
when you,
more-
it's when
You're
you
talking
have,
about 20 and 30, yeah, throughout.
It's not all at once.
throughout the day, so it's staggered when you have
It's not
deliveries and
usually
stuff.
the scaffold company rolls at early in the morning, 6:30 in the morning. And they, what time do they come back? They could come back at 5 o'clock. They could. Could
Yeah.
come back at 4 o'clock.
But that's
And
a-
also,
It's limited, is the
But-
and,
point.
well, how big are those trucks
They
to
vary.
Joy's
But I tell you,
point
that's on
earlier about
Sawmill
turning
River Road,
radius?
coming only from the thruway up to Lawrence, so that's really a very short distance. It doesn't
That does
interfere with
We
the
would
town
have
at
to
all.
template those to
the
demonstrate.
problem
But
is-
that is where it backs up
But it's
on
not the-
Sawmill River Road going into Lawrence Street to get onto Sawmill River
To 87?
Parkway.
No, he's talking about getting onto
No,
87,
but
not
it's
Sawmill.
getting onto 87 to Sawmill River Road to Lawrence Street. So Sawmill River Road backs up. That's why people are going against oncoming traffic, because they're so backed up. The lines in either direction to get onto the Sawmill.
To the extent that they own their own scaffolding company, they could probably stagger and set the times. They don't need their truckers sitting in that
But the
queue.
problem-
So they could look at
The
that.
problem from a safety point is that right now, there's no bus stop at this square. So people, the only bus stop is on Sawmill River Road. So you have, all the
Right there at
employees
that
are basically
intersection.
walking from Sawmill River Road on Lawrence. So if you have vehicle, and, you know, if you have vehicles, you know, a lot of trucks and things like that, there's a, you know, and people aren't really paying that much attention or whatever, there's really a decent chance of an accident. And we did have an accident last year. There was somebody in Hastings who
On
was
Sawmill
injured.
River Parkway.
Yeah, crossing the, so, so it really is,
But they're not
it's
going
already
that way.
not a
They're
safe
going
location.
opposite way.
So again, you know, to me, anything that generates like, let's say again, if you want to have a larger storage for vehicles, you know, and you just, like, you know, you have a couple car dealerships and you just store the vehicles and they don't move, you know, most of the time, then I would say people would
But I think
probably
we
say
should, I
that's
think
fine.
we really should try to address the applicant's question as far as you asked, what if you just had, you expanded the scaffolding business? I think, quite honestly, we need to do a safety, there needs to be a safety study to see exactly, or the traffic study rather, to see exactly where you just described, you changed the direction of where the trucks are gonna be coming in and out of. And we see that study, so we can have evidence and to show what the impact is going to be.
Yeah, but you
Would
want
it
to
even be-
find out if it's like worth your while pursuing this.
But he's the
That's
applicant, but that's his
that's
decision
his
to make,
decision,
we
Bob.
can't control his
All right,
decision.
don't worry about
It
their
has
money,
an
don't worry about their money, okay?
Your consideration. you'll
I understand that, but let's
is
concern
the
Greenberg's.
difficulty
Okay, I have
of
another-
our truck
A little hard of
staying
hearing.
out.
when
Oh,
two
I'm sorry.
people
Sorry.
speak at once, it's hard for me to.
Okay,
Figure
I
it
have a
out.
question, actually.
Yeah, I was.
Sorry, go ahead.
Say something.
Go ahead.
And I apologize.
No.
That you also you would want to take into consideration the impacts on you getting people in and out because of that traffic, because that will impact your flow.
Isn't there a sidewalk on the opposite side of the property?
The crosswalk
Or light
across
fence.
Sawmill.
No, or like
Sidewalks
this.
primarily on your side.
The sidewalk?
Yeah, and it's very overgrown, so it's not very, there is a
Yeah,
sidewalk.
but that's what I was saying, that the sidewalk
It's on
and
the same
approach to
side.
Sawmill is on that side.
Is that a request that was address the overgrowth?
Yes. No, what I was gonna actually ask is, would it be possible to widen Lawrence Street? Is that even a possibility? I don't know.
You have the
Well,
light
that's where I
bulb.
said the culvert might be a problem.
Right,
We might have a limiting factor there. It's something we can look at as part, again, I think you hit the point. There's gonna be a traffic study that's gonna be prepared.
Yes.
The traffic study is gonna detail the operations on the property. It'll detail the number of vehicles, we'll do counts, we'll model everything, and we'll show the truck turning templates and what's being proposed. And that'll be something that you can react to and have tangible in your hands that you can look at and evaluate as part
Would
of
it
the
make sense for
process.
you to like reach out to the village board in Ardsley and maybe Dobbs Ferry, because both of those communities are
Well, he said he
impacted.
wanted to give us the courtesy
No,
of
but I'm
coming up
talking
to us
about
first, I
as
said
a
that,
next
but,
step.
yeah.
Because this way you could get sort of a sense, you know, if, you know, in terms of the community.
but unless they do a traffic study, they have nothing to present to anybody.
No, but they could.
So that's up to
No,
them.
no, let them-
Well,
I think they know exactly what to do, we shouldn't tell them, they
Right.
just wanna,
We appreciate you making us mindful of the other neighboring governmental bodies that might be interested. We hear you loud and clear, Paul. We got that. Appreciate the suggestion that we get our data together
Yes.
in terms of safety, in terms of vehicular movement,
Yeah.
what options the client would explore, alternative to the buses. If we told you that your school district was one of the school districts that was saying we want to park our buses here, does that matter to you?
again, no.
Okay.
And the reason why I say that, not that it doesn't matter, Greenberg, I don't know if it's Greenberg, we just need to, we need to see the impact. And I think so for us to go and say, yes, this is a great idea because Greenberg Central or
Yes.
Greenberg 7 needs the space, I would never make a
It's all about
decision
the
that way.
safety.
It's all
It's all
about
about the
safety.
safety.
So we need the evidence to see.
Yeah.
Good, at least
And-
your answer's consistent with what you
Right.
said earlier. I had to test it and you.
No, absolutely, no, no, we gotta be right. We
I
gotta be
live in
fair across the
Duxbury,
board.
and there's no way I would want that to be in place if the safety concerns are
Right.
that's what we're talking about.
Understood.
And the only other thing that I'd have to say, that in your rendering, you do have trees. I'd like to know that there will be taller trees and foliage for screening.
So as part of the plan and what we depicted was to give an opportunity, there's landscaping buffer requirements both on
Right.
new vehicle storage and for your construction equipment storage. There's certain setbacks and landscaping, and even when we met with staff, it was important to incorporate. Staff had some comments about adding landscaped islands throughout the parking areas because it's part of the code provision. So
Right.
these are things that we would do as part of the project. Limited amount of pavement, if any, like they were talking about, just to make sure we keep the impervious areas down.
Fully
So,
fenced in, Diego.
fully fenced in portion of the property, upgrades
Security
against the
lighting.
frontage of the property on Lawrence Street, all new landscaping
protect
along
your
the front,
That's,
so.
those are the easy
So,
parts.
understanding that we're still storing equipment in new cars, there would be a significant upgrade to what's out there right now, for sure.
Okay.
That's how I feel.
So Paul, you really like it, huh?
Can you tell he's jump up and down for it? Do
What?
you have any
Do you have a
questions for
hearing
us?
aid?
Do you have any other
I
questions?
think we have some homework to do and some regrouping. This is exactly, we wanted a candid, pre-submission discussion.
You got it.
We certainly got it. We appreciate the time. Garrett, thank you for making sure we got on an agenda promptly. And the good news / bad news, they own it. We will be back. We're not going anywhere.
Right.
We
Yeah,
can't
we
go
will
anywhere.
come
Understood.
back. Yes, we're welcome to
Understood.
come back. We will.
So
Yep.
we will be
Just
back.
want to get the best.
And, maybe, one of the things, because my goal is to get something approved, not get something, rejected. And, we've worked in the past and, and you're an excellent attorney and you basically know how to deal with, residents. I mean, maybe one approach that you may want to take is to sit down with like a small group of people, the village of Ardsley, Duff's Ferry, the school district, and then if we all sit down and then we hammer out different options, maybe we could try getting a consensus and say, you know what, this is something that we could all live with, because the village and the town, we can't say you can't develop it because it's your property. So we know that something has to be developed at some point. So the community already said their main concern was the traffic, years ago, and they killed basically a project. So the thing is, we have to say, listen, we're going to try getting the best option for the community. And if we all sit down, I think we could come up with something that might work for you and, could work for the village, could work for the town, and then everybody will say, this is, could be
I
plus.
do understand Paul's concern because I remember very well the hue and cry that was
About the
raised
resi.
for the residential, but it was the village and the school district that were creating the issues, so he's worried about
We
that.
got it.
I think you
Right.
did.
But I'm happy to sit
Thank
down
you.
with
Thank you,
and
David.
that's
Thank you very much.
So are you guys all related?
Yeah.
Are you two related?
I'm not gonna remember.
So I'm looking at the eyes, I was like, I think big eyes. Okay. So I just gave you an extra son. Thank you, gentlemen, appreciate your time, have a great evening.